I didn't sell my body. I sold my womb. And even then, they still found a way to break me. They said I was saving a family. But what they really meant was, stay silent, carry the child, don't ask questions. I was 25 when I signed the contract. I'd been mopping the marble floors of the Doha International Clinic for 2 years, watching women with handbags that cost more than my village walk past me like I was invisible. My father had just had a second stroke. My siblings were surviving on one boiled egg between them. I was so deep in debt, I started skipping meals to send more money home. Then, Dr. Sahira pulled me aside after my shift. Her voice was smooth like honey, but laced with acid. You're healthy, no bad habits, pretty, quiet. There's a couple, very high status. They want a child. You'd live in comfort, and we'll pay you enough to change your life forever. She handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a contract that said, Surrogacy agreement, male child preferred. I asked, and if it's a girl? She didn't answer. The villa they took me to looked like a golden palace, massive chandeliers, polished staircases, and cold silence. Laila Al-Mansour, the wife, met me at the gate, wearing designer abayas and sunglasses indoors. She nodded but didn't speak. Her husband, Sheikh Hassan, didn't even come downstairs. I heard his voice once, booming behind the prayer room door. They called me the carrier. Never Nadia, never mother. My phone was taken for security. My food was measured. I was assigned a nurse named Amra, who monitored everything from how long I slept to how often I smiled. Once I asked if I could send a letter to my family. Amra said softly, "You're under confidentiality. Think of the baby. Think of your future." When the test came back positive, everyone was suddenly kinder. They gave me thick orange juices, soft blankets, and a bathtub scented with rose oil. But it was fake. Even the joy I felt wasn't mine. It was leased. At my 20-week scan, the technician smiled and said, "A beautiful baby girl." Then he looked at Amra, and the room went quiet. Too quiet. That night, they removed the rose oil. The fresh mangoes stopped coming. My vitamins were halved. A week later, I heard Layla shouting in another room. "We paid for a son. I will not raise someone else's daughter." The next morning, I was summoned to the majlis. Sheikh Hassan finally appeared, tall, imposing, dressed in a flawless white thobe. He didn't say "Assalamu alaikum," he said, "After birth, the girl will be sent to a facility. You'll get 40% of your payment. This conversation is final." I stood there, barefoot, belly round and alive, and I realized I was never part of the plan, just a transaction wrapped in skin. That night, I laid both hands on my belly and whispered, "You don't belong to them. You belong to me." I didn't know how. I didn't know where. But I was going to run. The driver Yusuf, who is also the gatekeeper, the shadow that stood between me and the outside world. He was always there, leaning by the stairwell, polishing the black SUV, staring at me without blinking. At first, I thought he was just doing his job. But one evening, I caught him going through my things. When I asked him why, he grinned, just making sure the mother of Sheikh's child isn't hiding any surprises. That night, I slept with a chair against the door. As the days passed, my belly grew, and so did their cruelty. Layla stopped speaking to me entirely. She'd walk past me like I was a ghost. I overheard her once, hissing into the phone, "I won't take photos with her after the birth. She looks like a housemaid." Sheikh Hassan no longer pretended to be respectful. One night, he knocked on my door and said, "There will be no birth certificate with your name. You'll leave through the back gate, without noise, without child." I broke down after he left. Amra found me sobbing on the bathroom floor. That's when she knelt beside me and whispered, "There's a clinic downtown. A state one. We'll say you have placental bleeding. Emergency. They can't stop you from being admitted there." My hands were shaking. What if they follow? She looked toward the hallway. They won't, if we're fast. But Yusuf sensed something. The next morning, I found my window bolted shut. My door made a new clicking sound when it closed. An automatic lock. He started appearing inside the house, sitting on the couch when I came out for tea, leaning against the doorframe when I visited the nurse's room. Once, I turned from brushing my hair and found him standing at the mirror behind me. "Don't forget, this child doesn't belong to you," he said. Still, we moved forward with the plan. Amra created a false alarm. She injected saline into my IV to mimic low fluid, then called the private doctor in a panic. Yusuf drove us in silence. I could hear him breathing, heavy and suspicious. But when the hospital door slid open, I ran. I didn't look back. I heard his voice behind me, shouting, "Catch her!" But I was already past the turnstile, past the security desk, screaming in broken Arabic, "I'm a pregnant woman! Please help!" A kind nurse pulled me in and slammed the emergency door shut. Yusuf couldn't get past the guards. That was the first time in months I heard a door lock and felt safe. I was transferred to a hidden maternity shelter that worked with abused expat women. The bed was hard, the room was small, but it was the first place I heard my own name again. "Miss Nadia, would you like tea?" "Nadia, your baby's heartbeat is strong today." They didn't call me carrier. They called me Mama. The Al Mansour family tried to retaliate. Yusuf came to the hospital once, posing as my cousin. He brought flowers and a forged discharge letter. The nurse saw through it immediately. She called the police. He vanished. A few weeks later, a letter came from their lawyer, threatening legal action, saying I had stolen their investment. But they didn't show up in court. Because in Qatar, secrets mean status, and they had too much to lose if the world found out they discarded a child just because she was a girl. I gave birth under fluorescent lights, gripping the hand of a nurse who hummed lullabies into Golo. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't perfect. But when they placed her in my arms, and she blinked up at me for the first time, I knew I'd never give her up. They wanted a prince, but I gave birth to a warrior. We stayed hidden for months. Zara, my daughter, was born with lungs full of fire. The doctor said she was small but strong. She came early, but not weak. I used to stare at her while she slept on my chest, in that shelter room with peeling paint and a flickering bulb. Her hands were so tiny, yet they wrapped around my finger, like she already knew she had to hold on tight. The shelter gave us 90 days. After that, I had to find a way to survive. I took a job cleaning at a language school for expats. Every night, I strapped Zara to my back and mopped marble floors in silence. But my silence didn't last. One day, a young Qatari woman who volunteered at the shelter approached me. She had read my intake file. "You were a surrogate?" she asked, eyes wide. "For the Al Mansour family?" I nodded, terrified. She invited me to speak to a small group of women studying law and reproductive ethics. I didn't want to. I was scared. But I remembered what Amra told me the day she helped me escape. If you don't speak, they'll keep doing it. To someone else. And next time, she might not make it out. So I told them. Everything. The story spread like wildfire in underground forums. A feminist blogger in Dubai picked it up. Then a Qatari human rights advocate contacted me, wanting permission to share it anonymously. I agreed, only under one condition. Zara's name must be protected. "This isn't just my story," I told her, "and no one will use her pain as entertainment." Within weeks, international journalists reached out. The Al Mansur family never responded publicly. But I heard from someone in the legal world that they paid a hefty sum in hush money to dissolve any record of the contract. The doctor who recruited me, Dr. Sahira, was quietly removed from her post. Yusuf disappeared. I never saw Amara again, but I pray she found her freedom too. Now, we live in the Philippines again. Not rich, not rescued, but free. I work with an NGO that educates women in Southeast Asia about surrogacy rights, body autonomy, and how to see past the false promises dressed in luxury. Zara is 6 now. She has my eyes, but her own fire. The other day, she came home from school and told me, "Mama, my teacher said my name means light. Is that why you chose it?" I smiled and said, "Because even in the darkest place, you were the only thing I could see." They wanted a son to carry their name. I gave birth to a girl who carries my truth. They will forget me, but the world will remember her.